All right, everyone, Tuesday morning as we inch closer to Saturday's Scottish Cup final. Pretty cool time to be Jeff Schlupp at the moment. Okay, you're not necessarily playing too often and you don't really know about long-term job security. But apart from that, he's clearly going to be going for the Scottish Cup winners' medal this weekend. We all hope that he can get there and Celtic can get there. And that would be the second cup winners medal that he's got in 2 weekends, because he posted yesterday on Instagram an FA Cup winners medal, and yeah, it suddenly dawned, I think, on a lot of people that he is part of the Crystal Palace squad that won the FA Cup this season. He put in a huge shift in their run to the final, playing a full 13 minutes of their third round victory over Stockport County. So he definitely deserves a medal. And yeah, it's kind of got people thinking, well, I don't know people, but certainly me thinking, has anyone else ever won the FA Cup and Scottish Cup in the same season? I'm sure there has probably been someone, but that's a pretty cool accolade, and I guess some sort of pub quiz question as well. I don't know. Just on Schlupp, also noticed he was down at the King Power Stadium on Sunday as Leicester City gathered a number of former heroes together to say goodbye to Jamie Vardy in his final home game for the club before he moves to Celtic in the summer. Yes, it's happening. That's probably not. Appreciate you being with me once again. Remember, everyone, we're trying to get to 15,000 subscribers. We're getting there slowly. I'm starting to doubt it's going to happen ahead of the weekend, so please prove me wrong. Please click subscribe. It's completely free. It's much appreciated, etc, etc. Just got a bit of a news roundup for you all again today on a few different things. Almost all of it Celtic related. Just first of all, though, I did notice a couple of managerial moves in the Scottish Premiership yesterday. Derek McInnes is the new manager of Hearts, and he wants teams to stop enjoying playing at Tynecastle. So I guess we'll see how that goes next season. Not sure. I could see that going either way, to be honest. My feeling is he'll probably do all right initially, but then potentially after the first season, things will go a little awry at Tynecastle, but we'll wait and see. The other bit of news was that Dundee have parted company with Tony Docherty after they finished 10th this season. That in itself isn't a major Celtic story, but the chat is that Sean Maloney is a leading candidate for that job, and he is actually interested in speaking to those at Dens Park. So yeah, potentially Sean Maloney back managing in the Scottish Premiership next season. Think he was at Wigan up until recently, maybe February, March of this year. Don't know if he did particularly well there. He had that stint at Hibs previously. Remember, people were talking about him as being like a future Celtic manager, and I think that ship has sailed. But yeah, Sean Maloney potentially coming back to Scottish football. In terms of Saturday, Celtic have announced now that all tickets are sold out for the Scottish Cup final, ending any lingering hopes for many people that there'd be a final release of tickets. Obviously, I'm a little bit out of the loop, just generally, but especially with this. But it does seem like tickets are pretty hard to come by for this match, with good reason. I mean, it's a huge game at the end of the season, Hampden against Aberdeen, and I think the fact that I know I've seen people online saying it's a 50-50 split for the final. I'm not sure that's strictly correct. I know Aberdeen have received around 20,000 tickets. I would assume that Celtic haven't received the same amount, because that would mean there's like 10,000 corporate tickets going. So I'm thinking lower tier will be 50-50, and then I'm assuming maybe like the majority of the upper tier of the main stand at Hampden will be like all Celtic. So I don't know if you've got a ticket up there over in the kind of Aberdeen end. Let me know, because I'm kind of trying to work that out, because I've seen a lot of people saying it's 50-50, and I'd be surprised if that's the complete case. But as I say, I think Aberdeen have already confirmed they're going to have all the way around to the halfway line. So should be a really good atmosphere, but if you've not managed to get a ticket, you'll just have to watch on the big screen somewhere. I have already been thinking a little bit about the team that I want to see Brendan Rodgers name for the weekend, and I think that and maybe the general consensus, or certainly the most likely team, would probably be a repeat of what we saw on Trophy Day against St Mirren. I certainly think we're going to see at least 9 of those 11 starting the game on Saturday. Like, you can pretty much call it's going to be Schmeichel in goals. It's going to be a back four of Johnston, Carter-Vickers, Scales, Taylor. I think midfield, McGregor and Engels are going to be in there. There's a little bit of debate that we can have in a minute over whether it's Bernardo or McCowan. And Maida's going to start off the left. Adamida's going to be through the middle. And I think most people would think it'll probably be Nicholas Kuhn from the right. But I think there's a real opportunity for James Forrest to start this game. Given how he's been playing recently, it just feels like James Forrest is riding the crest of a wave at the moment. Just given the way things fell to him at the weekend, he's really confident. But even away from the goal he scored, he's like playing incredibly well, James Forrest. Those past couple of matches, starting at Pittodrie, comes on after about an hour on Trophy Day, and he's been excellent in both of them. So he's playing really well, he's confident, and he has the experience of playing in a number of cup finals for Celtic. He's scored in, off the top of my head, I think at least 3 finals for Celtic. I think they're all League Cup finals, but he's still proven that he can come up with big moments in a final. So I'm firmly on the James Forrest boat for the game on Saturday. And yeah, there was an interesting kind of moment after the game last Saturday with Sky Sports when Brendan Rodgers was asked by Sky Sports presenter Ailey Barber after the game whether James Forrest had given him some food for thought in terms of his team selection for the cup final. And I was watching it, and it was that way that she was asking the question, and I was thinking, I already know what he's going to say here in response. He's going to say, nah, it's not giving me food for thought. I know what James Forrest can do. I've not learned anything about James Forrest over the past couple of games. But he didn't say that. He gave a different response. He said, yeah, that's been the whole idea of changing the team so we can see where all of the players are at. And he also then gave another quote to the written media a little bit of time after, saying, there's no doubt we have a bit of thinking to do for the game. And while that was a general point, I guess, on his predicted 11 and maybe other things, I think that was in response to the same question about, has James Forrest specifically given you some food for thought? So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about this, but I just get a wee feeling from somewhere that James Forrest might start on Saturday and the manager might put him into that lineup. And as I say, I would 100% be for that. The other position that I said is up for some sort of debate is the midfield. Should it be Paulo Bernardo? Should it be Luke McCowan? I don't think Bernardo was great on Saturday. I thought he struggled in the game, to be honest, but the whole team did struggle, so you feel it's a little bit harsh to judge players based on the weekend. But he has been talked up a fair bit by Adam Ida, and I know Adam Ida isn't responsible for picking the team, but Ida going all out, calling him one of the best players in the squad, and also said he's technically unbelievable. I think I'd go Bernardo over McCowan on Saturday. I'm not sure exactly why that is, because McCowan's arguably been playing a little bit better. I just get the feeling that Bernardo in the big games tends to really rise to the occasion, and we've seen that in the past. I mean, he's the one who creates the opening by staying on his feet for the Adam Ida goal at the end of last season against Rangers. So I think I'd go Bernardo and have McCowan coming off the bench and hopefully giving us a bit of impetus in the second half. So yeah, 10 out of the 11 who started against St Mirren for me in the starting lineup this weekend. I'm going James Forrest in for Kuhn. I'm sure you can let me know what you think as well. Elsewhere, I did notice a little bit of chat yesterday about Matt O'Reilly, and a little bit surprised to hear that, potentially O'Reilly on the move this summer from Brighton. There was a tweet from Fabrizio Romano, who I've now mentioned in the last 2 videos, something I clearly need to address going forward, which effectively said that O'Reilly was one to watch in the summer, attracting interest from Serie A, Bundesliga and Premier League clubs. I did go just looking for that tweet before coming on here, and it appears to have been deleted by Romano or his people for whatever reason. Now, I did notice that there was like sorry, this is incredibly niche, everyone. Apologies if you tuned in for hard-hitting stuff today. I did notice there was a Scottish emoji that he'd used in the tweet, and I thought that was a bit strange because O'Reilly isn't Scottish and he's not at a Scottish club anymore. So maybe that's a simple reason Romano's taking the tweet down, or maybe it's that the tweet wasn't right and he's got mixed up or something like that. But the tweet has been deleted by Fabrizio Romano. What that means for Matt O'Reilly, we don't know. The whole Celtic link here to Matt O'Reilly, other than him being a former Celtic player, is that the chat is that we do have a sell-on percentage included in his next move, a bit like we have with Jeremy Frimpong at the moment. Yeah, it seems like I've seen like 10% mentioned, and I'm not quite sure whether that's like just a direct percentage we'll get of whatever Brighton get for O'Reilly if he does move on, or whether that's a percentage of the profit Brighton make. Given that it was the latter with Jeremy Frimpong, you would maybe think it's similar with Matt O'Reilly, and obviously it doesn't seem like Brighton are going to get much of a profit on the, I think, 25 million they paid us for O'Reilly if he does leave. So that's one worth keeping an eye on, but yeah, a little bit surprised to see O'Reilly potentially on the move. I also saw Kasper Schmeichel on the latest episode of the official Celtic podcast, speaking about his career at the likes of Leicester City, also with Denmark. I was a little bit surprised they went down that route on the official Celtic podcast, spending like 3/4 of the show speaking about his career away from Celtic. I'd much rather have heard him talking about different parts of Celtic. But I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit picky. Anyway, they did speak a little bit at the end about current affairs at Celtic, and he was asked about Vil Sinizalo and how well Sinizalo did while he was out of the team. And I guess in kind of typical Kasper Schmeichel, maybe typical Scandinavian fashion, he didn't go overboard here on Sinizalo. And he basically said that the biggest compliment I can give him is that I wasn't surprised to see how well he did. He sees it every day in training. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And he then went on to actually praise another Celtic goalkeeper, Scott Bain. And I thought it was interesting comments because he was speaking about Scott Bain being the third choice and having to turn up for training every day and go to all the matches and even take part in the warm-ups before matches, but not even be included in the match day squad. And he says that Scott Bain just brings the right attitude every day, and he thinks that Bain deserves all the credit in the world. And I remember about this time last year, probably roughly this time last year, when Joe Hart was saying his goodbyes, and I think it was like the Celtic TV interview they potentially put out, was it before Trophy Day, and he thanked a lot of people. And I always thought it was interesting that Joe Hart thanked Scott Bain and really, paid tribute to Scott Bain. I can't remember the exact words that he used, but it was something along the lines of, the smile in my life or the joy in my life. Scott Bain comes in and is always like upbeat. So yeah, I think it's interesting how both Joe Hart and Kasper Schmeichel have both praised Scott Bain in the role he plays. And I guess as fans, we don't ever really see Scott Bain anymore, so we just kind of know he's there somewhere. But yeah, it's a complex old world in terms of squad dynamics and all of that stuff. But it seems like Scott Bain's certainly valued by a lot of people. So yeah, that was Kasper. Check that out if you fancy loads of chat about Leicester and Denmark. Just finally, we did touch on Brendan Rodgers a bit yesterday. I did miss this at the weekend because it was hidden away a little bit. I've not seen too much coverage of this. Basically, Brendan Rodgers talking about his contract situation and some plans to have a chat with Desmond in the coming weeks. He told the media it's up to the club. The club might think 3 years is enough of me, and that's it. It's always what is most important for Celtic. We'll catch up over the summer. I wanted us to focus on this season without distractions, just focus on performance and winning. Then, when there's a bit of spare time at the end of the season, we can chat around that. It's great for Dermot. I'm so proud for him. The belief he's had in myself to bring me back and the confidence he gives me in that belief allows me to maximise how I do the job. So yeah, Brendan Rodgers saying that he's going to have discussions with Desmond over the summer about next season, I guess, but his contract situation is going to come up clearly. He doesn't seem like a guy who's like itching to get away from Celtic. He's spoken a fair bit in recent days, and to be honest, throughout his second stint at the club, about how happy he is living in Scotland or Glasgow. It feels like home to him. And I think as long as Celtic continue to match his ambition, then I think, you keep Brendan Rodgers hungry and you keep him wanting to really achieve things. And Europe's a huge part of it now. Like the difference these days for Celtic having, 8 guaranteed league phase games, whether that's in the Champions League or even the Europa League, 8 different opponents compared to previously when you just have 6 and you'd be over by early December. Now it goes all the way to the end of January, potentially longer if we get into the knockouts like we did this season. So yeah, the European stuff is massive, and if Celtic can keep, as I say, matching Brendan Rodgers' ambition for the club to compete at the top level of European football, then I think we have him around for a number of years. A number of years could mean 2 more years after this. I certainly don't think next year's going to be Brendan Rodgers' last year at the club. He's not actually said anything that would lead you to believe that. I know there's always, I guess, given that we've been scarred in the past about him leaving prematurely, there's always a tendency to worry about, is Brendan Rodgers going to leave us for the next English job that comes up? Everything he's saying is that he's going to stick around. And I think, to be honest, he's spoken a bit about the negative reaction and feeling a bit feeling the hurt that he caused when he left us last time. So yeah, next season under Brendan Rodgers, definitely. And I reckon there's a fair chance we get an update on his contract situation and a new contract over the course of the summer. Let's hope that's the case. For now, though, everyone, that is everything. We're moving ahead to Saturday's Cup final. Tomorrow, we're going to switch the focus on to Aberdeen, find out how they've been going this season, find out how they are feeling ahead of Saturday's big game. Do they stand a chance? Please join us then, everyone.